Hello old-timers and newcomers, I am Core Scratches, and thank you for joining me to take another look at what I found. And I had an idea for October. I thought I would reach out to Bloody Disgusting and ask them to send me all of the VHS movies, including the latest one. So every day I would review one of the segments from that franchise in a month-long Halloween special. That fell through. But luckily Ash Hamilton came to my rescue. There was a status in a found footage Facebook group asking people to check out and review the latest opus from indie writer-producer Ash Hamilton. Holes in the Sky, the Sean Miller story. It's a mockumentary-style found footage film starring Hamilton himself and his team as they investigate Sean Miller, a former local who is claimed to have been abducted by aliens. Unlike other claims of abduction, he didn't seek out media attention or demand to be believed. He simply left when all the questions and curiosities overwhelmed him, wanting to forget the traumatic event he experienced. But in a rare moment of trust, he invites the team into his life, showing the horrors he lived with to this day, as the events never ceased. Or in other words, it's an abduction movie. Simple, to the point, and you know exactly what to expect. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Hamilton is a professional horror fan. He runs horrorfix.com, and he has already worked on several movies, including the Killer Doll short movie Play With Me, the spoof movie Camp Death 3 in 2D, and I am a big fan of Brandon Tenold and would really like to get on his channel the movie.
It's like if there was a movie called Dinosaur Titties from Japan. It doesn't matter what the movie's like, I'd have to do a video on it just based on the title alone.
And being linked a screener of the movie, I can't actually show you any scenes from the movie. What I can do is give you my overall impression of the movie, which is positive. Sort of. Maybe it's just because I relate to the novice artist, or maybe I just want to say something positive considering the last few times anyone sent me a screener I sort of ripped the movies to pieces a little bit. But for all its failings, I found myself enjoying the show of craftsmanship. It's a film made by a fan of horror cinema, with all its positives and negatives, more held back by the material than the skill with which it was put together. As you might have gathered, I don't really want to give this movie an objective assessment because it comes out worse than I feel it is. So what I will do is try to balance the positives with the negatives, and hopefully you won't unsubscribe because I'm a willful hack. As all good mockumentaries should, take fucking notice, Stephen Cognetti, it starts at the aftermath, where Hamilton and his team have become a part of the story they hope to convey. They, the survivors and experts they contacted, are interviewed to give their own take on the events, as the footage they captured is overlaid it all. It's as basic as it gets, with an obvious influence from movies like Lake Mungo and The Blair Witch Project. But unlike the project, this movie wasn't filmed with complete strangers forced to ad-lib their lines on the spot, but with people who actually knew and connected to one another, making the dialogue flow a lot more naturally. But also making it very glaring whenever they had to read from a script. Hamilton, I am not an actor, but neither is you. So what about the story? For the most part, they resist the urge to make a traditional three-act narrative that would make the events come across as overtly staged. They're there to film the events taking place, talk to Sean Miller, played by Sean Ed, and possibly experience a thing or two. Pacing is what keeps the movie interesting. Also, for the most part. The movie starts out setting everything up, who these characters are, what they're doing, and hinting at what their experience will lead up to. And then it just stops for 15 or 20 minutes where nothing happens. I mean, they conduct a few interviews and they have some interaction with one another, but nothing that actually progresses the plot. I mean, I'm a nerd, and I like discussing nerdy things, but I really struggle to see the appeal of 5 Middle Ages sitting around a table discussing cartoons from their childhood. Also, there is a subplot where their cameraman is dealing with a personal tragedy, and they are concerned for his well-being. But it doesn't become a focus until the very end, and it's very awkwardly shoehorned in there. It's the kind of thing that would have been better addressed by the wraparound story rather than within the story itself. So, if the story meanders, the pacing is off, and the film is slow, how can I defend it? Because the rest of it is good. Not great, but good! Once you get past the initial doldrum and the movie takes off again, it plays it safe with simple, familiar events done well enough to keep your attention. It's not predictable. On occasion they break the mold and include things most people would associate with hauntings more than alien presences. But once they're set up and you can see where it's going, the thrills are executed competently. Not scary, but intriguing. And so many things are going on and uncovered, I found myself very curious to see where it was all going. On that note, the movie doesn't really have a satisfying ending that ties up everything and gives a proper resolution. The ending is very much left open. But I choose not to see that as a bad thing, because it concerns aliens and alien encounters. And it is to a large extent inspired by real stories. And those in turn leave a lot of questions generally, so it really doesn't feel out of place. As a fan of novice cinema, I find myself very much enjoying this movie, but as a critic I can't ignore all of its shortcomings. It was kind of good, kind of bad, kind of middle of the road. I sentence Holes in the Sky, the Sean Miller story, to a 5 on a scale of 11. Feels very underwhelming for a Halloween special. Should have done the bloody disgusting thing instead, but thank you all for watching. I have been Core Scratches, and happy Halloween. Give me all your candy!